Let's talk about the new Franco, Alison, Brie film Together, which actually premiered at Sundance earlier this year. Rave reviews. I didn't watch it at Sundance. I got an opportunity to watch it at South by Southwest, and it quickly became one of my favorite horror movies of the year. Let's talk about the ending and all of that. Before we get into it, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. We are on the road to 50,000 subscribers this summer. Let's get to it, but let's talk about Together, which has opened up in some select theaters. So the film follows the couple of Millie and Tim, played by real-life couple Dave Franco and Alison Brie. We see the couple are going through transitions. They've been together for a bit, and it seems that there's a lot going on in their life right now. Tim is an aspiring musician, and Millie has a teaching job that she is going to move them countryside for. Tim doesn't really want to move countryside. He prefers to live in the city, but of course he loves Millie a lot, and this is the only way to be with her, so he's going to do this. Shortly before their leave, however, at a going away party, we see that Millie has proposed to Tim, but Tim decides to not really respond, which causes her to just be embarrassed by all of this. They eventually do move to the countryside, and they decide to go hiking in order to maybe bond a little bit more. However, during this hike, they fall into a cave during a rainstorm, and they spend the night there just talking to one another. Tim actually opens up a bit with Millie and talks about how he found his father's rotting corpse in bed with his mother, and a very disturbing image is showcased throughout. I really do think Together has some of the most disturbing and gnarly images all year. Eventually they drink some water here because of course they get thirsty in the cave, which I'm just like, yeah, that's like a first thing that you know not to do, right? They take a nap, they fall asleep, whatever, and the next morning they wake up, their legs are a little together now. They're stuck. They pretty much say it's the mildew, things in the cave, things like that, why this happened, right? Now what we eventually see is that Tim starts to have these very weird episodes now where he's pretty much drawn very physically to Millie, which is interesting to note because apparently they hadn't had a sexual intimacy in some time, so it's kind of like weird for Tim to be like this. And we see that Millie becomes frustrated with the way that Tim's acting towards her. At school, Millie finds a coworker named Jamie who welcomes her to the neighborhood, and she invites him over for dinner. We see that the couple starts to recount the experience of the cave, and Jamie explains that the cave was the site of an abandoned church in the past. Maybe some people had a cult is what they allude to as well, and it gets a little bit weird, right? The next day we see that Millie drops off Tim at a train station because he's going to go play a musical gig. He's still very much so hell-bent on becoming this musician, and he's just in some weird spots in his life right now, right? We see that he can't go. He is still like physically drawn to Millie, like his body is going to be there. It's going to be with her. Like if he's further away from her, the more in pain he is. He needs to be physically with her. We see that Tim ends up going to Millie's workplace where they are pretty much like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, you need to chill, you need to stop. Ends up hooking up there with her, but the genitals get stuck together, and it is one of the most hilarious scenes of the year, no doubt about it. We see that Jamie spots this happening, and Millie is like embarrassed about it, so she decides to go to apologize to Jamie for what he may have seen and all of that. Jamie begins to talk about his relationship with his deceased husband, but then Millie starts to leave because she notices that Tim is outside very disoriented. Tim is then taken to a doctor where they're pretty much like, well, we'll give you some relaxants and things like that. There's not much more we can do, right? Tim then realizes that there was a couple that went missing not too long ago, Simon and Carrie, and he uses the data from the social media photos to find out that they were in the exact same cave that him and Millie were as well. He believes now that the fate that happened to Simon and Carrie is ultimately going to happen to both of them, although they don't know exactly what that is. That night, however, Tim and Millie lose complete control of their bodies. They crawl towards each other, and they pretty much get fused for the most part. However, before they completely are fused, Tim takes some of the pills in a panic and then passes out, awakened, tied to a chair, where we see that Millie has a saw and she just saws through their fused limbs now. They decide, you know what? This is what we're going to do. We're going to go to the hospital. It's going to be cool. But Millie realizes she left her keys at Jamie's house. So she returns to go get her keys from Jamie's house and tells Tim to just wait right here. We're going to get this fixed. He actually decides to return to the cave to see if there's a way that they can undo what's going on here. There he finds Simon and Carrie completely fused together as a humanoid. So Tim now realizes that this might be the fate that awaits for him and also Millie. Millie, however, enters Jamie's house where she finds the TV playing a wedding tape of two men she doesn't really recognize, and then there is a ritual in which these two men fuse together. Jamie then reveals to be that result of the fusion and promises that they will be happier after becoming whole, and implores Millie to just let the fusion process happen with Tim. She resists and he slashes her arm and she attacks him back, which causes him to split into two separate entities as she escapes. We see that Millie then returns with Tim onto the street where he tells her, you know what? If one of us is gone, the other one can be happy and be free, and that's going to be you, Millie. That's going to be you. She pleads for him not to do this, and then we see that her wound is now open and she's nearly bleeding to death. Tim realizes the only way to save her is to fuse his arm with hers and takes her back inside. They then decide, yes, fusion is inevitable. We have to do it as they slow dance and fuse into one singular being. And then we see that Millie's parents, who were always going to come for the weekend, are here. They knock on the door and now they see that the symbols from the cave are at the front door and they're greeted by a person that is both Millie and Tim as the story concludes. So pretty much what we had here was this cave, this church where the cave was used in ritual experiments of sorts. Jamie was always in on it, although he didn't really want to say he was, because I guess they don't really want people to know about it, and if they happen to stumble upon it, that's good. But this was like a cult that really believed in people, once they meet their better half, that they should just become whole to be a grand person. I don't know what exactly happened to Simon and Carrie. I believe maybe they weren't just the right match, and that's why they didn't really fuse well enough, and they became what they became, in contrast to Jamie's two before the Jamie existed were a great match, and also Tim and Millie were meant for each other, and that's why they became whole and were good for each other, right? So that's pretty much the ending of Together. I thought it was such a great film about, I feel, when you're in a relationship and how much you truly are giving or not giving in that relationship really means how much that relationship will last. We see at the beginning that Tim feels that he is sort of going to miss out on things if he decides to stay with Millie. And I think that's where you see their relationship problems really start off with Tim being sort of having this grand ego in his music career and things like that. He completely abandons Millie and forgets about her, and she just wants the best. She even proposes to him and wants them to be together. She is still there with him, supporting him, going through all of these things so that he's happy, letting him do the musical gigs regardless if she doesn't think that there is a future in that or not, as others say. She still loves him enough to let him follow his dreams and passions. On the flip side, Tim, for the most part in the beginning of this film, has been pretty much thinking, is this relationship for me or is it not? And I think at the end we really see that Tim realizes how much he loves Millie, but we finally see that Tim is willing to sacrifice to be there for Millie, to showcase how much he truly loves her. In the very end of the film, he finally realizes that I love her so much, I'm willing to give up whatever for her, and I love her so much, I'm willing to be just one for her. And we see that that is when they truly showcase how much they truly love each other, as they show this mutual love and slow dance together, embracing each other for the first time really in the film, and just becoming one. And I mean, it's a very romantic movie at its core. It has some horrific imagery here, but I really found myself getting emotional with it because I thought it was such a beautiful love story of these two people who are at a weird part in their relationship. They've been together for so long, and with relationships, I think that's something that is natural to come, a sort of feeling of, I'm gonna be with this person, and that's kind of scary. You know, it's a thing with people that they feel when marriage comes around the corner, right? You realize that you're saying forever and ever, and you start to get scared as a human, right? You start to realize that this is it. This is what my final decision will be. And I think it takes a lot to realize that maybe you're not meant for the relationship, or maybe you are happy in a relationship. But I think that understanding and sort of coming to that conclusion is exactly what we see Tim do in those final moments. He realizes, I love this woman so much. I want to be there for her. I'm willing to give my life for her even. And I think that that is such a beautiful love story here. So one of my favorite romantic romantic films of the year for sure. More or less, it's a comedy romance with some horror elements throughout, and I really love it for that. I think it was such a great film as well. So the cult here was doing the same thing. They were putting people here, marrying them, taking them into the cave so that they would become one, and that's what it was. I think that the church in itself probably just went down and under after some storms and things like that. As we see, there's a ton of storms here, but I think Jamie just wanted the best for Millie and wanted her to understand, and I think they didn't also want the cave to be exposed as well. And it seems that Millie and Tim have also joined the cult by the end of the film and probably good friends with Jamie now. So very curious. I don't know what the hell Millie's parents are going to think though, now that they see that there's just this one person, and how they will receive the news that their daughter's not here, but half of their daughter's in there somewhere, right? I don't know how this fusion will work. It wouldn't be half a daughter, right? It's the whole daughter. Who knows? But let me know your thoughts and opinions on Together, what you thought about it. I thought it was a cute, romantic love story about just being there for one another, and how when you find the right person, it's just like you're one person, which I think is truly just romantic and beautiful. But let me know your opinion on the film in the comments down below. Check out our other reviews if you haven't. We're on the road to 50,000 subscribers. Let's get to it. I'll see all of you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.